You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik, a show to help professional moms in survival mode to take hold of their lives and thrive. If you're ready to take powerful action to create your best life, then this is the show for you. I'm your host, Dr. Prianca Naik, board-certified internal medicine physician and certified life coach. Now let's get to it and dive in. You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, episode number 6. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in today. It is such a beautiful day here, so much sunshine. I hope it is beautiful around you as well. And today I want to talk about mindfulness. To me, mindfulness is a basic tenet of peace, fulfillment, and happiness. And isn't that what we all just want? Just to be peaceful, happy. Mindfulness came into my life several years ago, right after I had my first child, my son, who's now 4. And I was really struggling postpartum, managing a full-time crazy job, and then really just trying to be present with my son because I had wanted a child for so long. And when I had him, of course, I was so grateful, but there was a whole host of responsibilities and things I probably didn't realize until after I had him. And essentially, I was in survival mode, barely surviving. I felt like I was drowning, and I knew I had to make a massive change. I just didn't know what. One night when I was Google searching anxiety, stress, I came across a support group that basically was for professionals like myself who were highly stressed. And the reason I bring this up is because one of the requirements of being in the group was to practice mindfulness meditation on a daily basis. And I had tried a couple times here and there to do it. I just never got into it. But when I make a commitment, if there's a requirement, I do it. So I started doing it. I did Headspace, probably a few minutes a day, several days a week. And with time, I was meditating for 20 minutes a day, then 45 minutes I could sit. And I've definitely sat for an hour at a time, although it is hard to make time to do that. But it's not so much about meditation itself, but what the premise of mindfulness did for me in my life, coupled with coaching, really giving me a beautiful distance from my thoughts and my feelings, and allowing me to give myself compassion, especially when things were going wrong, being able to be an observer. And I'm going to dive into all of this mindfulness in this episode, but I thought you should know how I started with it. So it did start as meditation, and it turned out to be so much more than that. And besides helping me deal with negativity or stressful situations in my life, mindfulness actually has helped me to make the most of very simple moments in my life, such as hugging my child or savoring food I'm eating. But it really has allowed me to truly get so much more joy out of my life. So because of these two benefits of mindfulness, I really want to share this with you. And I think it's so important that people are aware of mindfulness and practice it in order to really get the most out of their lives. So let's dive in. Mindfulness allows us to live in this moment, the present moment, because this is what life is right now, here and now. We often think about the past, or we worry about the future. But all the while, we're missing out on what's right in front of us, right here and now. Our brain's default mode network is an incessant stream of thoughts. There is an automaticity to so much of what we do. We're living our lives on autopilot. Maybe this is in doing the dishes, showering, we don't even notice the water falling down on our faces, or driving a familiar route. Have you ever driven on a route for the 100th time and suddenly you notice a beautiful tree with all these branches. And you ask yourself, was that tree always there? Well, of course it was always there, but you're just now noticing it. Why? Because our brains are just wandering. We're on autopilot and we don't notice what's around us. Noticing the beauty around us brings us to the present moment, and it connects us with nature and our surroundings and truly increases our happiness. The sooner we realize and acknowledge our tendency for automaticity and those incessant streams of thought, the more we can get control and not get lost in the experience or getting sucked in to brainados like I've talked about in the past. But we can become observers. So let me be clear that mindfulness meditation is not about zoning out or zenning out. It's actually about practicing observation of thoughts and of feelings, that we are not our thoughts and our feelings. When we become observers, we realize that we don't have to be one with our thoughts and our feelings. They no longer own us. And in fact, we own them. This is empowering, right? We have control. One of the first steps to being mindful, as is the first step to most of this work, is to increase our awareness of our 5 senses, of our body, of our breath, and of what's around us. Here and now. We can say that to ourselves to tether us to the present moment through our mind and body connection. Meditation, the practice of meditation, allows us to notice. And then we can apply this noticing, this mindfulness, being present. We can apply that to our lives. So it's not so much about sitting and meditating. It's about taking that practice and applying it moment to moment every day. Applications of mindfulness. We can savor the good moments when we're hugging our child. Like I said before, we want to be present with our children, right? So often if I'm sitting there and reading my son a book and I feel myself wandering, my mind wandering, and I'm planning, tomorrow's lunch, tomorrow's dinner, I literally say to myself, here and now, and I take a deep breath and I feel the weight of gravity on my body. I feel the contact points sitting on the chair, and that pulls me into the present moment. This is also very useful when you're having a spiral where you're catastrophizing and you're playing out the worst case scenario about something again and again in your head. You're obsessing. And simply, if you just breathe and you acknowledge there is a body and focus on your breath, the breath truly serves as an anchor to pull yourself here and now into this present moment. So again, how we can apply mindfulness to our lives? Well, just remind yourself, here and now. I actually have a Post-it note on my bulletin board, 2 Post-it notes. One says here and now, one says there is a body. So I highly recommend putting a reminder somewhere where you're going to see it on a daily basis. There is a body. Feel the weight of gravity and the points of contact of your body with a chair or standing up, etc. We can then shift our focus to our breath for a few seconds, and this provides us with stability. We have that anchor, as I said, and this allows us to feel stable amidst any and all chaos. I use this when, let's say, my 4-year-old starts screaming, and then my almost 1-year-old, she starts screaming too, just by proxy. I feel triggered. I want to scream myself. But I do and I don't want to scream, right? I feel like screaming, but I know that that's not going to help anything. So I will often just pull into myself. I feel myself standing up. I feel the contact with the feet on the ground, and I breathe. I take several deep breaths. Not only does this help me, but it also helps for my kids to see that this is what I do. And when let's say my son has consequences to hitting his sister or something like that, I will put him in a designated area to think about it, calm down, etc. He will actually engage in deep breathing and practice his breaths, which is amazing. Can you imagine if we had had these tools when we were younger? I really wish I had discovered mindfulness way before I did, but better late than never. Mindfulness really helps us to shift into being instead of doing and thinking. We have to actively stop what we're doing and actually pay attention to the breath. We accept the present moment. And by acceptance, I mean we don't try to change anything. We can observe, we can notice, we can accept. And if it's something, let's say that, or whatever it is, actually, we can accept it and we can let it go. And just acknowledging where we are, having no agenda. And the practice of meditation is really just redirecting and training the brain, getting out of our heads and becoming observers of our thought, and really allowing ourselves to be here in the present moment. John Kabat-Zinn's book, it's called Wherever You Go, There You Are. And that is a perfect summary of mindfulness. We use the breath as an anchor to pull ourselves into the present moment. Jackson Mackenzie said, meditation practice over time leads to mindfulness and a greater mind-body connection. This process gives us distance from our thoughts and feelings. Eventually, we will get sucked into our own inner drama less and less, leading to a more balanced life experience. And I think that sums it up perfectly. We know how much our own inner drama depletes us. It's often just a waste of time. And by practicing mindfulness, we can get ourselves out of that habit and more into the present moment. So my recommendation, if you want to try mindfulness, is to start with a few minutes a day, several times a week. A great app to do this is Headspace, which I have no affiliation with. That's how I learned. I started with 3 minutes. I believe there's a beginner series that's for free. Remember, there's a body. There is an I Am app that you can download in the Apple Store. No affiliation there. It also has mantras, reminders, sayings. Make an effort to notice your surroundings, look around, appreciate the beauty. You can check in with yourself regularly all day. A good time to check in is maybe when you're in the bathroom, when you're using the bathroom, because we know we do that multiple times a day. And check in with how you're feeling, check in with your breath, remind yourself there's a body. We can also use mindfulness when we're feeling negative feelings to just notice and breathe. Or we can use it if we're having a good moment and just to notice, be with that. According to John Kabat-Zinn, the basics of meditation include intention, attention, and attitude. Intention of why you're doing what you're doing, attention in noticing the present moment, and attitude is in how we pay attention. Mindfulness allows us to disconnect from our emotions. We end up taking life less seriously, in a good way though. Life becomes more enjoyable because we are savoring those wonderful moments. And then when it comes to the bad times, we can notice them and notice that they come and they go. This too shall pass. Right? That's a mantra in my life that always helps me. So the benefits of mindfulness, I want you to know those so that maybe that'll give you more incentive to practice. Mindfulness has been shown to reduce stress, anxiety, lower blood pressure, improve sleep, improve focus, concentration, increase feelings of well-being or happiness. And it also helps us with our constant need to be stimulated because we're on our phones. There's so much technology, social media, and our brains are working overtime. And the mindfulness really allows our brains to rest, to focus, to reset. Providing us distance between us and our thoughts and feelings, mindfulness and coaching can help us notice how we're using our thoughts and feelings. We can notice the ones we don't want to stick to, and we can also hold on to the thoughts that we feel are helpful for us. Especially when it comes to the negative thoughts, we can notice them, but we don't have to get sucked in and absorbed. And we can decide to not give them airtime. Does this sound crazy to you? Well, it's not crazy to me. And I'm going to tell you that this is truly a skill that we can work on. I am a former brainado aficionado. I used to obsess, and it made me so unhappy and so tired. And I have transformed myself to a point where I no longer function like this. I am much more aware and much more mindful. And of course, hence, much happier. And you can be too. We can sit and meditate. We can feel the stability of our bodies. We can choose to tune in to our mind-body connection. This also helps us to be more comfortable with ourselves alone, and in silence. It really helps us to combat rumination. We become more aware of how our brain works. Remember, it's always going to the default mode network, wandering aimlessly. And when we realize how it works, we can use it to our advantage and waste less time and energy. Streamline how we use our brains and energize ourselves. We can become more comfortable sitting with the discomfort of tension or negative feelings. And the more we allow ourselves to be present, then we can really notice and move forward and move past our negative feelings. Are you ever afraid that you'll carry emotional baggage with you? I know this is something that people worry about the older they get. Well, not me. And the reason I can say this is because I practice mindfulness. I can be in the present moment. I don't have to ruminate on the past. Don't get me wrong, I've learned from my past, but I can allow the discomfort of the negative feelings or the negative memories. And because I can sit with the discomfort, I can actually move past it. So you might be asking, how do I get myself into this way of life? Well, it all starts with regular meditation practice. Do a few minutes a day and try and go up to 10 to 20 minutes. I would say this is the sweet spot. Do your regular check-ins, your body scans. You'll learn how to do a body scan through mindfulness meditation, and then really carry what you learn through meditation with you moment to moment in day-to-day life. Some books I found helpful to learn more about mindfulness are Full Catastrophe Living or Wherever You Go, There You Are, both by Jon Kabat-Zinn. I also recommend The Art of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh. That's also a pretty short read. Mindfulness will really give you the tools to help yourself and feel self-sufficient. You can use it in real life. It helps in all your relationships. Of course, the relationship with yourself, but your relationship with others as well. It allows you to sit with your emotion and proceed mindfully with intention. By focusing on the breath, we can really start weaning off mindlessness, mind wandering. It's really liberating when you start practicing this and you get a sense of balance. You will realize that you have the tools to ground yourself at any given moment. You will no longer feel out of control. You have the control. It is right within you, within your breath, your body. That's your anchor. So, getting yourself to this way of life, it does take a lot of work up front, practicing meditation. But let me tell you that the alternative of not being mindful will take up far more energy. Some mistakes that people make with mindfulness meditation is thinking that by meditating regularly, they will find peace, and this is not true. Meditating by itself actually isn't the answer. People also assume they cannot meditate and that there's a right way to do it. Well, that's not true either. There is no right way. You just have to sit and try. And ultimately, You must apply what you learn in your mindfulness meditation practice to real life. Mindfulness really helps us to make the most of small moments, and that's what comprises our lives. We can sit with negative emotions, realizing that they're harmless, that no emotion will actually physically harm us. It gives us true tools to cope with stress, anxiety, and adversity. It empowers us. It connects us to our bodies and our minds. It allows us to be present, and most importantly, it's free. In my life, mindfulness has empowered me to savor the good and ordinary moments, contributing to my overall happiness and fulfillment. I also use mindfulness in stressful, anxious, and angry moments. It helps to center me and give me distance from my overpowering, unpleasant feelings. The breath and mind-body connection allow me to know I have full control over myself. And that is so comforting. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and that you can walk away with some tips to get you started on your own mindfulness journey. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik. If you are ready to get unstuck and out of survival mode to live your best life, I want to invite you to book a free 30-minute consultation call with me. To get started, visit priankanaikmdcoaching.as.me. Link in the show notes.